So we're talking about Urchin today, which is a film by Harris Dickinson, his feature debut. Of course, we know him as an actor. Raj is a big fan of Harris Dickinson.
I am. Don't tell my fiance, but Harris is my secret boyfriend. Just kidding.
So would you see a film that he's in just regardless, just because he's in it?
100% absolute yes.
That's very loyal. Very loyal of you.
I have a few actors and actresses that I'm like that with. I mean, I primarily judge a film based on the talent. I mean, most people do, or director.
This was an interesting one because we've seen a lot of films that he's acted in, and we've been to a couple of premieres. I think we were at one of his premieres a few years ago. Maybe that was about 5-6 years ago. It's quite way back.
Yeah, he's quite a friend of the BFI London Film Festival because he always has something in the works, and now he's just blown up. So yeah, he's everywhere now.
Yeah. Was it Postcards from London?
Yeah, and then of course there's Beach Rats. That's what kind of put him on the map. And then
that was great.
Yeah. What else is the Triangle of Sadness as well? Remember that one?
That was nuts. That was nuts. So this is his film. Obviously, he's directed. It's a film that stars Frank Dillane, and he's obviously in it as well. He's got a small role. Megan Northam is in it as well. So we went to a preview screening at Soho House, and we bumped into Maz. Hi, Maz, who runs a movie review channel. She was there with her friend, and we spoke a bit afterwards, actually, a bit about the movie and what it meant, especially the final moments, because it's quite symbolic. It's quite an interesting story in terms of what it really means, because it's not necessarily all explained. I think you have to kind of figure that out, which I quite like films like that. But it tells the story of Mike, who's a rough sleeper on a quest for redemption, battling both external forces and internal demons that perpetuate a cycle of self-destruction. So it shines a light on the strange patterns that keep pulling us back. So addiction, and also how we relate to others and people that are trying to help us, and sometimes it's not always that easy.
Yeah, very interesting story. It's, I felt it was like a pretty original screenplay, and coming from Harris and what we've seen lately. But yeah, it's very. You said it's quite symbolic. I'm like, it's extremely symbolic. I think this is the type of film that just has you thinking sort of straight away, like, okay, what did that reference mean? What did this reference mean? But yeah, but it also, interweaves a really relatable, very interesting, and, full of heart sort of story throughout. I didn't do so much talking after the film, and because I have to take time to process things, and it was way too soon for me to process it like immediately after the film. But over the course of the next 3 days after we saw it, I felt myself coming back to it quite a bit.
Yeah, because we came out of the screening, we were going to do a reaction, we didn't. But you're right, because I felt a bit shell-shocked by it as well, because it's quite powerful in terms of, I don't know, but believability as well, because you really believe the characters, so you feel like you're going through the struggles with them. And also the film doesn't judge either. I think there have been a few films that have told a similar story in the past about addiction. You do feel like you really want to help, Frank Dillane's character.
Yeah, it's kind of like the little, your little brother that you're just like watching out for throughout the whole film. And you're like, don't make that decision. Don't do that. Why did you do that? Like, so easy to slip back into your demons. So I think a career-defining moment for Frank Dillane. I think this is the film that's going to put him on the map, because he was so brilliant in this and so believable, and so, he just embodied that character. And I never really paid too much attention to what he's been in before. So, he definitely popped up on my radar as one of those actors that are one to watch.
Yeah, I'd never really seen him before. He was in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. He was also in The Walking Dead and Harvest. I've not seen either of those. So
totally your genres, Phil. Totally.
This is so my genre, because this is real hard-hitting stuff, but also quite delicate and quite tender, because it doesn't, like I say, it doesn't judge the characters. It doesn't judge Frank Dillane's character for making mistakes, and he does make mistakes, because we see him at the beginning. He's obviously out of work, and he's homeless, and he's going into shelter, and he lands an opportunity. Well, he meets someone, doesn't he, who's trying to help him out, because he gets into a fight with Harris Dickinson's character, and he's helped by this guy who he mugs, and you just think, why have you done that? Because this guy was helping you out, and you could have got back on the road. You could have helped yourself, but obviously it's not that easy, I guess, when you're in that position, and nobody really knows unless you're in that position how you feel and how you react to situations and how you react to people trying to help you either.
Yeah. What I really appreciate about this film too is a lot of things were just subtle. I mean, they could have really gone into the darkness of the drug taking and needles and pipes and all sorts of stuff, but it really just kind of left that all the grittiness or goriness of the dark side of addiction. It brushed it to the side and really focused on the story. But you can't really compare this to something like Train Spotting, where it's kind of like really kind of in your face and and shows you what the whole process of being addicted is like. But it just does it in a different way, which is kind of heart and full of heart, and sort of makes you think this is what real life looks like, rather than it being overly symbolic on how destructive the drugs are.
It does make perfect sense, because I think it does show how people can really help each other. It shows the good in people.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't shy away from the bad things that happen or how people react in a bad way, because it deals with that as well. But I think because we see him getting a job. We see him getting a job in a hotel, in a kitchen, working in a kitchen, and he's a chef. And he's obviously, I don't know, a bit like a pressure cooker in a way, because you're still dealing with the trauma of the past. And that comes back to kind of bite you on the arse in the way. So I think it does show that, and it shows, the people that he worked with, they go out with him, they take him out, and, he ends up taking drugs and drinking, and it spirals again.
But on the happier side of things, there is a scene in the movie where they're all doing, him and his new friends are doing karaoke somewhere to an Atomic Kitten song. And I'm like, to me, that felt very much like the center point of the film, and it kind of uplifted the mood and kind of showed and tonally showed you how things can shift from, euphoria to being passed out on the ground, So, I really enjoyed that scene. And like, it just made me so happy. Like, I felt like I was right there with them, and maybe Atomic Kitten will get some royalty boosts as well. So.
Megan Northam plays a girl that he's seeing, and she's really good as well, because she's living on her own and he goes to stay with her, and he kind of takes advantage because
he tries.
He pushes his way in, and she doesn't really want that, because they've not been seeing each other long, and he takes umbrage about that. He's not so pleased with.
And that argument, they do have an argument in that scene, and it's quite like just punches you in the gut, because she can see right through his bullshit, and knowing how hard she's worked to overcome her obstacles. Like, who's this guy going to come in, just try to, impede on, what I've built for myself, which isn't much, but, you could tell that she had that motivation to keep moving forward instead of being drawn back into the same cycle of things. So, that was one of the things I thought about afterwards, where I couldn't talk about, like, right after.
It was so good, really, really well played out, and again, like I said, believable too, which I think is really important with a story like this. I got a message from someone on TikTok who said that I think he was mentioned at one of the screenings, the premiere or something, and because I think he was consultant for the movie, and I think he's become a friend of Harris Dickinson. So I thought, oh, wait till I'll tell Raj. He's going to be really jealous about that.
Harris, just come on to Boys on Film and let's just have a good old chat. Give us the real deal. So,
well, he was saying what a nice guy Harris Dickinson was, and I think that comes across in the writing and the direction of this film, because it does feel very empathetic, and it feels like, it is being honest. It's not shying away from the bad things that people do when they're in that situation, or the addiction problems that they have, and all the trauma that goes with that. So I think, it's kind of gritty, but like you say, there are some uplifting moments that are joyous.
It's very interesting, because we've been seeing a lot of first directorial debuts lately, and quite frankly, some of them have been crap. But it's very interesting that having the actor pedigree and coming into your first directorial debut, what it can translate to. Because I thought it was super impressive for a first time filmmaker. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, he's been around, film sets and has, been in films, but it's interesting how those skills kind of carry over. I was just super impressed. Like, you didn't even have to tell me that this was Harris Dickinson, and I would have been impressed. You wonder, like, all the things that he could have taken from his experience and working in a lot of independent things and a few big budget things like Baby Girl, and how that translated and what he's learned to produce a first feature like this. I think it's
Yeah.
just super impressive.
I don't know whether it's his decision that he gets a smaller role in this, but obviously because he's got such a weight of work behind him, I would imagine it probably was his
Well,
decision.
I heard the story on one of the interviews that he did about that, and they did initially. He wasn't going to be in it, but he did have an actor for that role, and I guess at the last minute they had to bail, and there wasn't enough time in the production to get a new actor. And I think it was Frank, because they became quite good friends out of the whole experience. He was like, "No, Harris, you have to be in it. It has to be you." And so he made that decision to do that.
I think his feet are firmly on the ground despite all the success he's had, which is
Yeah.
good to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's called Urchin, released in cinemas nationwide from Friday, 3rd of October. I thought it was fantastic. I mean, I said to you, I'm very tempted to give it 5 stars. I'm going to give it 4 stars, though. I thought it was a really impressive debut story.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I will give it a 5 star because I do like Harris Dickinson's body of work way more than the average person. But if I didn't know if it was Harrison, I would probably give it 4 stars as well, because it's very well deserved. It's been one of the best films I've seen.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of want to give him a little bit of room for that real 5-star movie that I think is coming. I think he's got it in him, definitely. I think it's maybe just around the corner.